Hi there and welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2025 Surveyor 260Bhle. We're just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice up top, you are pre-wired for an observation camera. If you'd like to get set up with that, you can contact our parts department. They can put a quote together for you, as well as a Lippert stair system. So it is a foldable, retractable stair system that just hooks onto that back ladder mount there. You got your spare tire. You also have a little extra door to get into the unit through the back. You can also fold this bed up in case you want to throw some bikes in there or something taller. Real nice feature. You have your spare tire located at the back here. And then located inside this bumper tube, you're just pulling on that cap. That'll pop right off. And inside there, this is where we store your sewer hose. Once fully extended, it's about 15 feet long. You just take a note of those 2 ears there. It's the same 2 ears that are connect to your sewer system, which I will show you in a minute. And then you just pop that cap back on there. Next is your 30 amp twist lock connection. This is your main power cord. You're just taking note of that notch there. Just line up with this notch on this side. Pushing that in, 8th turn to lock it down, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it into place. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Most campsites should have this and you can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is just a standard household outlet. We do include a 15 amp park adapter. Just keep it in mind when you're going down to 15 amps of power, you're only going to be wanting to run your fridge and your lights off that. If you do try to run the air conditioner, it's probably going to trip your breakers, so just be mindful of that. And whenever you do plug this in, you're just going to get that green light on top telling you that you have a successful power source. If that red light were to be on, it's telling you that your source of power is the problem and it's not the trailer. In all 4 corners of the unit, you're going to have these stabilizer jacks. The way those works is you got a 3/4 inch drive nut tool inside the front compartment, which I'll show you when we get there. You just hook that up to this guy here, run this foot down to the ground. Once that foot contacts the ground, just giving another 1/8 turn just to snug it up. And that's just going to take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. You got your cable satellite inlet for if you're hooking up to a TV source. And then you have your black tank flush. The way that works is you do have to have your sewer hose connected into a drain and your black tank open. It's very important you do so, otherwise you do run the risk of bursting your tank. It's going to tell you on that caution sticker right up top here. And the way that what that black tank flush does is just keeping that tank that little bit cleaner. So if you're noticing an odor inside the unit or just some false monitor panel readings, that'd be a good way to deal with that. You do have a nice little motion sensing light here whenever you do have a source of 12 volt power. Twisting that there just unlocks that. It's the same ears you've seen we had on our sewer hose. They just line up with these notches here. It doesn't matter which ones, just any ones. And you're just taking it and twisting it and locking it into place. And then you got your black tank, or your black tank on this side and your gray tank on this side. You're always going to want to empty that black tank first. It's going to be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you can come behind that with your gray water, which is typically cleaner water coming from your sinks and your showers, just to keep that hose that little bit cleaner. Coming up forward into the unit, if you look down below the trailer here, you got these 2 valves. So that's going to be your low point drains. That's just going to drain as much fluid out of those lines as possible in case you didn't want the lines going stale or stagnant, or you're just doing some faucet work. Fresh tank drains right here, twisting that guy open. That's just going to drain all the fresh tank that's inside the unit. You got your city water connection right here on the wall, so if you're at a site with service, you can just throw a garden hose in there, turn it on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the needing to run your water pump. And then up from there is your fresh tank fill. So you're just twisting that cap off, putting that hose inside there and filling it up. And that's what fills your fresh tank. Opening up this guy here is just the service port for your hot water heater. You're always going to want to make sure that switch is on in case, unless you're winterizing it, then you turn it off. That just supplies power to the thermostat inside. And then because it's a tankless system, it's not your typical winterization process. Typically, you're going to bypass your heater. On these guys, you don't bypass it. You do run antifreeze through it, making sure that it's off, of course. And then whenever you're done winterizing the whole unit, just cracking this pressure relief valve, allowing that antifreeze to come out whenever it expands. That way you don't burst any of those coils inside there. So just be mindful of that. And then inside here is just some storage space. And then it does come with a starter kit. There's supposed to be a 15-foot sewer hose in there, I do have that located in the back bumper already. So you just got all that other stuff, the 15-foot water hose and other miscellaneous goods, as well as that 50-amp park adapter, which I told you about earlier. Around the front of the unit, you got your battery inside this box here, and then you got your battery disconnect switch. So if you're leaving the unit for a while, don't want those batteries to go dead, with it in the on position like it is now, the batteries are connected to the unit. If you were to turn it to the off position, the batteries would become disconnected from the unit. And then under this big cover here, there's just your two 20-pound propane tanks. Most of the time you can get what you need done just by loosening these two tabs off and opening this guy up, and you get access to your tanks and everything. But for the purpose of the video, I'll just take this right off. It does just slide off. Right up front here, you get this selector valve on your regulator. With the arrow pointed this way, you're gonna be drawing off this tank. And then to turn that on, it's just like any regular barbecue, counterclockwise, slowly and all the way, just to open up the flow of propane to the unit. And then if there was no propane in the lines, typically this is red and it'll go green. You get your front tongue jack, light up in the front in case you're docking at night, up and down, pretty simple. Around this side of the unit, it's just some more storage space. And then inside here, you're gonna have two tools. This is for those stabilizer jacks, which I told you about earlier. A lot of people will go to a drill method. Just keep in mind whenever you're using a drill method, being careful not to over torque them because you can bend them that way. And then this is just a slide out override, which goes right through here. You're gonna notice there's a shaft on the other side of here, which this will spline into. And that'll allow you to manually run that slide out in or out in case of an emergency where it wasn't coming in or out. Coincidentally, actually, I just seen in the corner of my eye, it does come with a drill attachment. Just like I said, just being careful that you don't over torque it with the drill. And then located is this weight distribution system, which this customer did opt for. And then you just got some other stuff, which I'll show you in a minute when we get there. Just go on the side of the trailer. A little further forward, you got your furnace exhaust here, so just be mindful of that because whenever that furnace is running, this is going to be blowing out hot air. Two 110 outlets on the outside here. Lifting these two tabs, this will open this guy up. Locks into place. To close it, you just have to pull that. It isn't magnetic, so just be mindful of that because it does look magnetic. You got a 110 mini fridge, so that'll be running anytime you're hooked up to shore power. And then you got this little system here, which is pretty slick. You pull that out, it's gas strut assisted. You can fold that out. Little table space, and this is where your grill, front storage space. You're gonna notice there's slots for all the feet except one, so that one becomes unscrewed like so. Just slide this one to the left. You'll plop that guy into the hole, and then you can come behind there underneath, line this foot up with its hole, making sure not to cross thread it. And that just locks this griddle on here just for safety purposes. And then we just kept this hose right here. Pull this out. This is the propane hose. Just taking those dust caps off there. Always important that you put those guys on whenever you're done with the hose. That way you don't get any debris inside the line. Run that behind the stove. Whenever you connect this, it's like your standard airline. You just pull back on the collar and push in. I always like supporting the regulator. Just an extra peace of mind that you don't break anything. And then coming down, you're gonna have the same coupler at the bottom. You're just pulling the dust cover off. This one does have a valve, so with the valve position like it is so, the flow of propane's off, and it is gonna allow you to operate that collar. Locking that into place. Opening up the flow of propane as an added safety feature. Won't let you operate the collar whenever the flow is open, just so you don't spew all that into the atmosphere. I'm gonna take this off just because you got this little nice sticker on here. And then to light it, you're just pushing over. It does take a minute just to purge all the air out of the lines, but oh, there we go. And it does fire right on up. The last feature I'm going to show you is just the little bucket. have a little exterior sink slash shower. Pop that bucket in there. I'm gonna flip this guy down. You take this, you're just noticing there's notches on either side. There's the cutouts on this side. You push that in place, twist it on, and you'd have hot and cold water right here. Real nice feature. Some of them do only have cold water. Now, best part, taking that assist handle, pushing it up fully at 90 degrees, it'll lock into place, allow you to open up the door, get your stairs out. You do have the door fully open. To unlock the stairs, pull down like so. That'll flip back at you. You do have these little things on either side so you can adjust your feet for your campsite needs. So you have nice and level stairs. Taking a step on the side first, you notice off on the left is going to be that fire extinguisher. It's going to be just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. On the wall, you got your interior light switch, which turns on the main living space lights. Slide out button, pushing and holding that button down. Always making sure you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. That way you don't run the risk of damaging anything. And once that slide out's fully extended, you're going to hear the clicks of the motor, and that's when you know you can just let off that button. You heard the clicking, that's when you know it's fully extended. You got your solar controller right on top. There's a few different settings you can go into on that. You just have to read up a little bit on that. And then you got your awning, pushing and holding that extend button up. The awning's gonna start making its way out. Once fully extended, you're gonna see the little flap hang down and the back of the metal tube. Whenever you are putting this out, just being mindful that you keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once you start getting to about 5 km/h winds, you are going to want to make sure you bring this guy in. That way you don't run the risk of bending your arms or ripping your fabric. So you see the back of that metal tube with a little flap hanging down. Now you can take any arm, front or rear, and pull down on it. And that's going to change the pitch of the awning head in case it were to start raining and allow water to then run off. Now if you like that angle better, because it does allow for more shade underneath, you can do the same thing with the front arm. Just always making sure you can push both arms back up to straight before you bring that awning in. And bringing the awning in is just as simple as pushing the button the opposite way, which is retract. And it would roll itself in. And once those arms contact the side of the trailer, they just cut out. You got these two nice bar stools here. Just keep a note, you do have that travel strap on there, so whenever you are traveling, it's always recommended to lock these into place. That way they don't shift around, causing any extra damage. Light switch in the bedroom, turn that on. You do have some nice storage space, storage drawers here. And then you can also pick up the foot of the bed and you get some more storage space down beneath, and that's where they keep the central vac system, which I'll show you in a minute. Emergency exit, pretty simple. You pull this screen tab out, the screen pops right out of place like you've seen, and then you just take that handle, push it out, and you can hop right on out of the unit. Storage all around, not much I'm going to show you there. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. And then one quick retract will allow them to retract back up. You got your Furrion fridge. Controls are all right down here. The further you spin this knob over, the colder it's going to get. You're going to notice some off-grid writing there. Now that is just the most efficient way to run the fridge whenever you're on 12 volt. And then all the way counterclockwise, we'll turn it off. You got a charcoal filter to help with odor. We do sell replacement ones of these at the shop. They can get you some of those. You can just contact them and they'll get you a quote. You got your dinette. So it's currently set up in a seating position for eating. If you pull these legs out, you can sit these tabletop on these ledges. Take your back cushions, fill in the center. You have yourself another bed. The light in here is just on its own center push button. Now into the main kitchen space. You do have your stereo, which is pretty much just like home, Bluetooth, USB, and aux. But you're going to have zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 1 is going to be your interior speakers. Zone 2 is going to be your exterior speakers. Storage space all around. Sink with hot and cold water. Right down below, you're going to notice you got that central vac system. To get to the bag, you're just pulling like so, and it'll allow you to pop that bag out of place. Pop that back in. Slide that over, and they'll allow you to attach a hose in there. And then they do have what's called a dustpan. So if you push all your dust around here, just keep in mind it goes into a bag, so don't be putting no sticks or nothing sharp in there. Lift that up, it'll automatically suck all the gravel and dirt in there. And then to turn on the central vac system, you just have to push the button and it turns it on. It's always recommended to close this whenever you're not using it because it helps for suction for the dustpan system. Storage all around. And now you come to your propane stove. So because the stove and the furnace both run off propane, there is an LP detector right here near the ground because propane's heavier than air. If this guy ever starts going off, you're just getting to worrisome levels. Don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit and open up some windows and vents to just ventilate it out. Surveyor does include this nice cutting board as well as a little cup here. Whenever you're folding this, just being careful because it's glass. And then to get the stove to light, you're just holding it over to that light option and pushing in and hitting the igniter, and it fires right on up. Fired pretty quickly today just because I did have the propane system running earlier, so just be mindful of that. Sometimes it can take a couple minutes just to purge all the air out of the lines. Opening this, you do have a couple different light options. You can light just the knobs up, or you can turn the stove light on as well. Then right down below, while you're turning this knob over to the pilot option, pushing and holding it in, allowing all the air to get out of the lines, and then hitting that sparker. See, sometimes it does take a couple seconds just to make sure all the air is out of the lines. Sometimes you might even have to turn it off again and then back to the purge option and push in. And there you go. And that pilot lights, holding it in for another second just so it can hold its own. Once you let off and it holds its own, you can turn it up to its desired temperature. And it does fire right on up. Whenever you're running the stove, I do recommend running your range hood just because it does evacuate those fumes pretty good. You get your microwave, which is pretty much just like home. Not much I'm going to show you there. And then you get your TV, and behind there is a couple GFI, one extra GFI plug, as well as your cable satellite inlet. There's going to be a little button next to the cable. You probably can't see it that well in the video, but if you feel back there, you'll see it. It turns that little green light on. That doesn't turn the antenna on the roof, and that also improves radio frequency. You got your two bunk beds, which do have lights and USBs in them. I already showed you the folding up method there. And then right here, you got your main fuse and breaker panel. Folding that guy down. Whenever a breaker trips, it's going to sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And whenever you have a fuse trip, there'll be a little red light telling you which one's tripped. And then opening up that door to get into the bathroom. Light switch on your left. Taking a step on inside. Speaking about GFI, this is where the main GFI plug is located. You got test on the bottom, reset up top. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, that'd be the first place I would look. You do have an extended camping season system installed into this trailer, so it essentially is just heating pads taped onto the bottom of the holding tanks. They say it's for extended winter seasons, but our Manitoba winters get much too cold. It's realistically max -5, and even at -5, you are running the risk of things freezing, so just be mindful of that whenever you are using it. You got your control panel for your water pump and your water heater, as well as your monitor panel system. So whenever you push that battery button, it's going to tell you where it's at. It goes low, fair, good, and C would be charging. And then for your tanks and stuff, it goes empty, a third, 2/3, and then full. You got your water heater options, turning that on. Turns that water heater on, which supplies power to your thermostat. You push that button. Sorry, it was on. I turned it off. Just push it to turn it on. You can change it between Celsius and Fahrenheit with just the push of a button. Up and down, you can get between your different temperatures. It's going to be stuck at 51 for child safety purposes, just so child don't scald their hands. If you push and hold that up button for about 5 to 10 seconds, maybe this one doesn't have that feature, sorry. So that is going to be the max set temperature that you can get to. Storage underneath. You got your toilet with hot and cold water. Shower, a little sliding privacy curtain that locks into place. And then right up top, you're going to have this fantastic vent. Pushing that in will allow you to, pulling it down will unlock it and allow you to turn that clockwise to open up that vent lid. Now, if you do notice, you go straight up into the atmosphere. So just be mindful if it were to start raining, it would get wet in here. Of course, unless you went with a max air cover. And our parts department could get you set up with that. Essentially, it's just a cover that goes over top of here and allow you to keep this vent open whether you're traveling or it's raining, and have it on. On button is just in that far one corner there. Hitting the button the first time brings it into its lowest setting, and then you have 3 more faster settings after that. And then the off button to just turn it off. And then whenever you're done using it, just making sure you do close it down, especially before travel, and pushing it up to lock it into place. That's going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to... Sorry, totally forgot to go over the thermostat. Speaking of the thermostat, I'll tell you now that whenever you're running your AC, whether that be on the cooling setting or the fan, you have a couple different options. You can leave these louvers closed, in which case it's going to move its air through the ceiling ducting we have throughout the unit. Or you can just open that up wide open, in which case it's going to dump all its air into this main living space. Whenever you first get to your campsite, I would just recommend leaving that open, cool off the main living space, and then try and move the air throughout. To use this, push and hold that button to turn it off, or push and hold the button to turn it on. It's going to bring you into your last setting that you were in. So in this case, it is heat. We're currently at it's warmer in here than our set temperature, so it's not going to kick in. Whenever you're on the heat setting, you don't have a fan setting. It's just one fan setting. Pushing that button again, it'll bring you through different modes. So now we're going to get into fan. Whenever you're in the fan setting, you can go between high and low. One more time will bring you into dry. That's just a dehumidifying mode. So it's going to kick the air conditioner in and out to try and take as much air moisture out of the air as possible. Now you get to your cool setting. Whenever you're in your cool setting, the up and down buttons to change your desired temperature of the room. And then if you hit your fan settings, you go between high and low. And then if you push it one more time, you're going to go into automatic. Whenever you do get that into automatic, it's going to kick the fan in and out as needed to cool off the area. If you don't have it in automatic, the fan is going to run full time, so just be mindful of that. Power button to turn that all off. And now that is it. If you have any other questions about this unit, feel free to call